As of Friday, May 17th, the U.S. has confirmed cases of porcine epidemic diarrhea virus, or PEDV. First diagnosed in Great Britain in 1971, PEDV has broken out occasionally in Europe and is widespread in Asia. As of this taping, confirmation of the virus had been reported in 4 U.S. states: Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, and Colorado. 3 of those are in the top 5 for hog production. PEDV spreads through either a fecal or oral route, and there is no effective vaccine. As I noted at the beginning of the show, this emergence is of no threat to meat consumption, only production. It also shouldn't have an impact on trade, as there aren't restrictions because of the virus. We talked with Nebraska State Veterinarian Dennis Hughes Wednesday about how PEDV affects a pig and how you can take precautionary steps to minimize your farm's chance of holding the virus.
Porcine Epidemic Diarrhea virus is a disease that has been recently diagnosed in the United States just in the last week. It's a viral disease that causes diarrhea and vomiting in all ages of swine. What is particularly devastating is when it hits neonatal or suckling pigs.
What's your level of concern on this for Nebraska?
Well, as we understand right now, this disease is not in Nebraska. We hope it does not occur in Nebraska, but it would be a major economic impact to any fair to finish herd if we had newborn infant pigs death mortality. It would be very significant.
Explain to me the comparisons, or compare and contrast the TGE to PEDV, transmissible gastroenteritis. How similar are they?
Okay. TGE, transmissible gastroenteritis, is an old disease that we've known in the swine industry for decades. This disease is a, quote, close cousin. They're both caused by a coronavirus. They would be very hard to distinguish clinically, and they can only distinguish in a laboratory by submission to a accredited federal laboratory.
So therefore, the producer can't really do anything him or herself. They have to go through the veterinarian if they find the symptoms.
Exactly. One of our fears is that a producer might presume it's TGE and make a diagnosis on his own without doing submissions to a veterinarian who would take samples to a non-lab, which would then refer them to NVSL for confirmation of PED.
If a producer were to get it, correct me if I'm right on this, and this is, I believe, the same in TGE, if the sow or the gilt had it, they could treat the farrowing or the weaned pigs with something through the milk, but once those pigs are weaned, they're susceptible again to the virus.
Yes, immunity can be developed in about 2 to 3 weeks. The problem is that baby suckling pigs, neonatal pigs, are so vulnerable to dehydration that they crash and burn, so to speak, in about 24 to 36 hours. So if they can survive that initial assault, they may be able to develop immunity. Unfortunately, the mortality on that age of pigs is 80% plus.
What's your recommendation then for producers? Is it something where you say call the veterinarian if you think you might have a suspicion of it?
First thing you need to do is just implement excellent biosecurity. You got to know where you've been. You don't track it back home with anybody else that's got TGE or coronavirus, PED. These are both very susceptible diseases that you would bring in by poor biosecurity. There is no vaccine yet. There may be, but right now you need to take all precautions not to track disease onto your farm by where you've been or where hogs have been moving from farm to farm. The disease itself, if pigs have survived that initial insult of dehydration, they can be treated with electrolytes and fluids and usually can survive. But unfortunately, mortality is very high within the first few days of life.
At what point do you recommend calling the vet?
Immediately once you see symptoms with vomiting and diarrhea. When you see particularly a typical situation is a producer walks in the farrowing barn and it looks like an explosion of vomiting and diarrhea in these baby pigs, that's time to call a veterinarian immediately.
If there's any glass half full on this, is it that this is happening in summer and the virus is susceptible to heat?
Exactly. In the situations that we deal with TGE, and this will be very similar, it likes colder temperatures than warmer temperatures. So right now we would look like we're going into the hottest time of the year. We're probably less susceptible now than we were if we were in winter.